Welcome students to this another lecture. The topic is on your screen, that is mental health in ancient Indian text. This lecture is divided into the two parts. In the one part we will discuss about manas and the consciousness with reference to the ancient Indian text. So let's have a look on the agenda for today's discussion. To explore and talk about preliminary ideas in philosophy and psychology, how ancient Indian texts address the concept of mind, then what are the issues of mental health in Indian traditions, then mental health remedies in Indian context. So, and another important point is knowledge traditions of Indian psychology. So, these are the few points we are going to discuss with the help and in the context of ancient Indian text, particularly the Vedas and Upanishads and other traditions. So, some points to ponder before we enter into the discussion. If you just on your screen, you just see the image of Sigmund Freud. So, if you mention Freud, nobody asks questions because he is a psychoanalytic. In the psychoanalytic field, he worked and he is known for his psychoanalysis theory, popularly used in education and psychology and so on. But if you just have another picture on your screen, if you mention samadhi, it is questionable. People will be either curious or they will talk about it, whether it is a psychology, it's a scientific way or some other. So, a lot of discussions would be invited by such things. Yoga is nothing but practical psychology. This is another point to ponder. Then do we have to deconstruct Western psychology first to construct Indian psychology? Always it's a debate whether Indian psychological aspects or the aspects of philosophy that may be utilized or used in psychological arena has a different perspective as compared to the West. This is another point to ponder. Always the criticism of the Western psychology or Western theories of sciences or the Western philosophy is not the right idea to establish some idea from Indian origin or from indigenous origin. So, this is again we will discuss it. And you see the two symbols of psychology in the West and in the East in Indian context. Is Indian psychology an integral framework of Indian philosophy? That is another question, whether psychology is the part of philosophy in the sense that philosophy provides the stuff to establish the psychological aspects in Indian context. Do we perceive specifically mental health issues in educational and social life? Such things are there. So, in section 1, we have divided this lecture in two sections. The section 1, preliminary ideas here, philosophy Indian and Western terms, psychology Indian and Western terms. These are the things we are going to discuss. Philosophy in Indian context, that is known as the darshana. Darshan, by which the ultimate reality is seen. Much of this aspect of this discussion we have already done in various lectures. So, here just a glimpse or the revision, just like a footnote. Darshnik is a saint by nature. Approach towards philosophy from Indian context, Bharatiya Drishti, that is a vision to life. Subject matter, the entire cosmos beyond time and space. Realization, traditions and practical concerns. Then pluralism in thought. Polytheism, monotheism and monism, all the three aspects exist at the same time. So, Bahudevvad is also there and Ekeshwarvad is also there and Advaitvad is also there. So, these three aspects go side by side. Applied aspects, obviously Indian philosophy is an applied aspect. It deals with practical problems of life and thought from all dimensions of knowledge traditions, whether it is from the Vedic schools or from the non-Vedic schools. And more than 9 schools of philosophical thought have been propounded by various propounders or the philosophers right from the ancient time up to the 16th century. And Savdarshan Sangrah by Madhvacharya provides as many as 16 schools of philosophy. So, now we just have a glimpse on Indian and Western philosophy. The etymology, the philosophy in the West comes from the goddess Sophia. Sophia refers to the wisdom. Here is a picture of, we have already discussed it in some of the lectures. The personification of the term wisdom is manifested in the form of Sophia. In India, we also in Indian context, in Bharatiya Darshan, we also have the goddess of knowledge, that is Devi Saraswati. And again you see that Indian and Western philosophy, some symbols are there. the thinker, brooding, and Mahatma Buddha, the contemplation. Both are in the positions of the thinking. So these are some fundamental aspects which are associated with the philosophy both in the East and the West. Now, principal source of Indian philosophical ways, that is the Bharatiya Drishti. Some Vedic sources are there on the basis of which Indian philosophy is constructed, its stuff, its context, its idea or the attitude, and so on. So, Vedic sources would include four Vedas, Upanishads, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavad Gita is also the part of Mahabharata, but it at the same time is a separate scripture, and that acts as a prime source for Indian psychology. Puranas, 18 Purans are there, Bhagavad Purana, Vishnu Purana, Markandeya Purana, and so on. So, the list is very long. Then Smritis, from Manu Smriti to the Deval Smriti, Brahaspati Smriti, Parashar Smriti, and so on. So, non-Vedic sources are also there that develop the Bharatiya Drishti, the Indian way of looking at the things and phenomena. In that perspective, Charvakas are there that provide the materialistic aspects of thought. And Buddhism and Jainism, the skepticism, sometimes the questioning, the debates or the argumentations or the dialogism, they all come from the Jainism and Sufism. Then Islamic traditions are there, cross-cultural impact on the thought, and the mystical aspects are also there from the Sufism and the Bhakti traditions too. Then Greek, Roman thoughts also influence the Indian thought, Indian way of thinking, and the Western intellectualism that come with the advent of the colonialism in the 18th or from the 18th century, yes. So, the Drishyate Yathartha Tattva Manen, that is by which the ultimate reality is seen. This is the core idea of Indian philosophy. And then again, Indian and Western psychology, if we just enter, apart from the Western, Indian and Western philosophy, now we have a look on, is there any difference between Indian and Western psychology, or if there are, then what are those points? So, Western psychology focuses on the scientific study of the mind and behavior through empirical experimental methods, emphasizing individualism, objectivity. Like Wilhelm Wundt is the father of experimental psychology. And then another is the Sigmund Freud. He is considered as the psychoanalysis who started this. Both are the very popular methods, experimentation by the Wundt and psychoanalysis by Sigmund Freud. They are very popular methods in the Western psychology. Wundt actually established the first laboratory, the psychological laboratory in Germany, in Leipzig in 1879. And his famous statement is mind to be studied objectively and scientifically. He says, he proposes that mind can be studied, but it should be studied objectively without any prejudices. And psychoanalysis by Sigmund Freud, that is another that talks about the mental states, id, ego, superego, and conscious, unconscious, and so on. Then another aspect of Indian philosophy is, on the other hand, Indian psychology integrates traditional philosophies, spirituality, and holistic approaches. It views mind, body, and spirit as interconnected. So it provides you the three aspects of body. This is the physical body, another is the emotional body, and third one is the spiritual body. That is called the Sukshma Sharir, that is the mental body, and the Sthul Sharir, that is the physical body, and this is the Karan Sharir, that is the Atma or soul or the spiritual body. So this is the idea about the three bodies. And even four parts of the mind is also established by Indian philosophies. One is the Manas is there, Chit is there, Ahamkar is there, and Buddhi is there. So it is divided into four parts. So this is the Indian aspect, and that is the Western aspect. Sankhya philosophy talks about the three bodies, four parts of mind, and Chandogya Upanishad gives the four states of mind, Sapnavastha, Jagratavastha, and so on in the discussion with the Prajapati, Virochan, and Indra. So beautiful discussions take place, and it takes 101 years or more than 100 years to achieve that knowledge. As an outcome of the discussion, we come to know about these four states of mind. It considers consciousness a key element beyond mere mind. That's the Indian aspect. So now Indian psychology, some other ideas are there, that universal application. The term Indian and only highlights the unique and distinctive insights on consciousness and the nature of mind discussed and described in our ancient texts and treatises. It also refers to the Indian perspectives on human life, but all of these are applicable universally. So in a way, it is an extension of the existing scientific psychology. So it is not detached from the Western aspects of the involvement of scientific methods. On the other hand, a modern Indian viewpoint also very important. Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, etc., they emphasize the indigenous perspectives, like in the context of modern scientific developments and materialistic worldview. They also highlighted the importance of a spiritual worldview of India, and they focused on how our ancient thinkers understood the nature of consciousness, mind, self, and other related topics, and how they are different from the understanding of Western psychology. So, the modern view from the Indian point of view is that there is a collaboration, there is a consensus on certain aspects in psychology. Indian psychology only provides the spiritual aspects or the different dimensions of the study from philosophical point of view, the study of mind from philosophical point of view. So, Indian and Western psychology, some aspects are there. For example, first psychological lab started by Wundt in 1879. We have already seen it. Then rootedness it's rooted in ancient Indian text as Vedas, and Western psychology is rooted in the Greek philosophy, Plato, etc. And then the self-realization, Atma, Chit, Manas, and then holistic approach to the mind from the Indian point of view is a holistic and introspective, mind, body, soul interlinked. Panch Koshas and Tirgunas of the Sankhya philosophy. We will all see in the forthcoming slides. On the other hand, Western psychology talks about analytical and empirical, mind-brain distinction, behaviorist and cognitive models. So again, we see some other aspects of Indian and Western psychology as methods, meditation, yoga and self. But in Western psychology, it is the experimentation methods by a laboratory or and so on, the field study. Then inquiry, contemplative practice, some other methods employed by Indian psychology. If we view the mental health, it imbalance in Indian psychology, basically imbalances in gunas. Three gunas are there: Sat, Rajas, and Tamas. Doshas, the three doshas are there: Vat, Pit, and Kaph, as Ayurveda suggests. And karmic influences disrupt the Chitta, that is the one of the states of mind. On the other hand, Western psychology, it talks about the disorders due to biological, psychological, or social dysfunction. And contemporary development of the renowned psychologists basically include re-emerging field, integrating ancient text with modern therapy, for example, yoga psychology, Indian counseling, and Anand Sen Gupta is a very famous name. But in Western psychology, you see broad disciplines. It's a broad discipline: cognitive, behavioristic, or the humanistic, or the psychoanalytic, or the neuroscience. These are the various fields where psychologists normally study. Sigmund Freud, Jean Piaget, they are the famous names. Now, coming towards the second section, mental health in Indian context. So we can discuss about evolution of the idea of mind and mental state, or illustrations from global literature. We can have some illustrations of the mental states, and as well as from the ancient text, cinema, specific terminology, text and sources, and so on. So here comes some illustrations from the Shakespeare's play Hamlet. You see in Prince tormented by grief over father's death and mother's remarriage. So this kind of mental state is depicted from Western point of view: depression, anxiety, existential crisis. And in another play by Shakespeare, Lady Macbeth, ambitious woman haunted by guilt after murder plot because she killed the King Duncan, who considered Lady Macbeth as his daughter. So when she killed, she just was suffering from the guilt. And in that play, Shakespeare uses the very important statement in very you see the thought-provoking statement when Lady Macbeth is washing her hands in front of the mirror, but she observes that the blood stains are still on the hands. So again she tries to remove it, but the blood stains are not disappearing. So then Shakespeare writes this famous statement: all the perfume of the Arabia cannot sweeten this little hand, because the stain is not on the hands, rather on the conscience. So Antaratma, that is called conscience in Indian context. So this state of mind is described in Western philosophy, that guilt-induced psychosis, that is called OCD. And then another play, King Lear. King Lear by Shakespeare. Aging kings faces betrayal by daughters, descends into madness. late life psychosis, dementia, these are the mental states. Then Ophelia, one of the heroines in Shakespeare's play Hamlet, abandoned by Hamlet and devastated by father's death. So her state of mind is described as grief-induced psychosis, depression, and so on. Then again Othello, military leader, manipulated into jealousy and rage. Then paranoid, delusional disorder, and so on. So some other examples are also there on your screen. You can pause it and you can have a glimpse of the mental states on the right hand. And then you just come to some Indian traditions, illustrations are there, like Arjun from Bhagavad Gita. He trembles, sweats, loses grip on his bow and refuses to fight due to emotional overwhelm. So this is a mental state that is described as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Karna is another character in Mahabharata. He shows deep self-doubt, isolation, and inner conflict about his identity, especially due to caste and abandonment issues. So this kind of mental state is identity crisis, low self-esteem. Meghnad is character in the Ramayana, obsessed with rituals and secret worship to maintain control and avoid defeat, panic when interrupted. His mental state is described as obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. Then Bharata in Ramayana, the brother of Lord Rama, refuses kingship, isolates himself in Nandigram, lives in grief and guilt for not stopping Rama's exile. So he is very much pining for that Lord Ram should come and he should take over the charge. But Ram refused to come back because he is observing the woes or the promises given by his father. So the state of Bharata is complicated grief disorder. Then Vibhishan in Ramayana faces alienation, moral conflict and anxiety over loyalty to family versus dharma, moral injury, adjustment disorder, and so on. King Vikramaditya is another character from the Indian history, from Vikram and Betal. So his state is also described as psychosis or hallucination like symptoms, and so on. So again you see from the Indian movies, some cinemas, Devadas, alcoholic aristocrat crushed by lost love and guilt. His condition is described as mental depressive disorder, substance use disorder, and the Ishan Avasthin Tare Zameen Par, creative child misunderstood for poor performance, and then dyslexia, anxiety, and so on. Then Pooja and Rahul in different other movies, and Rizwan Khan, My Name is Khan, 2010 movie, Muslim man with autism trying to navigate life after 9/11, that was attacked on World Trade Tower. So he is suffering from autism spectrum disorder, that is Asperger's. So these terms are very common nowadays. So some other examples are there on your screen. Bhiku Matre from Satya, and Parvati Paro from Devdas, and Veda from Tamasha, and Samir from Chichore, and so many other movies are there. So Indian and Western mind are like that. The Dehik Tre is there, the Karan Sharir, Sukshma Sharir and Sthul Sharir we have just discussed. And similarly, Aristotle also puts the idea of logos, ethos and pathos. Logos refers to the logical aspects of mind, ethos refers to the credibility, reputation, authority or the emotional aspects, and pathos includes purely the emotional aspects, the humor, vulnerability and so on. And on the other hand, Indian and Western functioning of mind, if we talk about, so we just come to know the four parts of mind is there. One is the buddhi, ahamkar, chit and manas. On the other hand, the Plato's psyche includes the three aspects of mind, the thymos for emotions, and logos for reasoning, and pathos for the appetites. So these are the divisions in Western and Eastern philosophies and psychologies. Now, evolution of the idea of mind comes from the Vedic period. The mind is mentioned by different other names like Medha, intelligence, purification of mind, prevents diseases in human beings. Therefore, one should have noble thoughts. That's why one of the famous sayings of Rig Veda is Anobhadra Kratvayantu Vishvata. Let noble thoughts come from all direction to me. So this was the prayers. Mental illness were independently identified along with physical illness in Rig Veda. First time the three traits of personality, Sat, Rajas and Tamo were described in Rig Veda. Later on, it became the basis of the philosophy of Sankhya. Atma consists of three elements: mind, that is manas, vitality, that is pran, and matter, that is vak. So these are all the things that comes from the Rig Veda: manas, mind, and then prana, that is vital energy, So I have given you the references from the verses of the Rig Veda on your screen. You may pause it and you may have a glimpse on it. Then Vak is speech or expressive matter. So they all come from the Rig Vedic sources. Then the complete framework would go like that. The matter, that is a speech, Vak, or the mind, Manas, internal perception and thought, and the vitality, that is the pran, the breath, and the energy sustaining. So Rig Vedic concept, manifestation of Atma in human life. In Indian psychology, this model shows that mental health, Manas, must be integrated with energy regulation, that is prana, and proper expression, that is Vak, communicative aspects. And evolution of the idea of mind also comes from the Upanishads. Chandogya Upanishad talks about, and in Shvetashvar Upanishad, they also describe what is mind, various states of mind. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad describes perception, thought, chit, and smriti, memory. And they also talks about the prakriti or the nature of mind, and 4 forms of mind and 4 states, avasthas, jagrat, swapna, sushupti, and samadhi. They are also described in the Upanishads. So quest for knowledge by Indra and Virochan, and they reach to the Prajapati. This is a beautiful description. So out of this description, we just come to know the 4 states of mind: Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, and the Turiya Avastha. So Indra got knowledge from Prajapati. It took 101 years, but we also got the 4 states of mind. So modern psychology also says, psychology says conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. So in Western world, consciousness, Indian and Western views are like that. They call it 4 states of consciousness. The modern psychology in the West, the beta refers to the conscious mind is functioning, alpha refers to the daydreaming state, theta refers to full access to your imagination, allows for change, and the delta refers to you are sleeping. So these 4 states are also there in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The absolute consciousness and the 3 states, avastha, that avastha trayi, jagrat, swapna, sushupti, or the turiya. So now this is the end of the part 1. In the second part, we will also discuss some other aspects of mental health and these Indian ways of psychology. So thank you very much. See you in the next part.